flies when you're having fun, amen? It's been 25 years ago this month that I joined the Franciscans. I know you're thinking I joined the Franciscans as a boy. 25 years ago this month, I joined the Franciscans in St. Louis, Missouri. And we lived in a rough part of St. Louis. It was poor. It was crime-ridden. You could hear the gunshots at night. It was a little seedy. You could hear the cat calls from my window. And in the middle of this rough neighborhood in St. Louis, we Franciscans, you know Franciscans have a place in their heart for the poor, we had a soup pantry that we opened every day. So for 30 minutes every day, we opened our doors and we provided a sack lunch. Our Croatian nuns made a hearty soup. We would put that into cups. We'd give them a piece of fruit, and we also gave them a bologna sandwich. Now granted, it wasn't a five-star restaurant we were operating. It was just plain white bread with a piece of bologna and a piece of processed cheese. But what was fascinating for me as a young Franciscan was to see the reaction to that bologna sandwich. You follow me? Because some people would receive that bologna sandwich and would be so grateful. You just felt that this was their food for the day. They'd be so grateful. Others would eat half of it and then probably put the rest in their pocket for later in the day, or maybe to share with someone else. And some people would look at that sandwich and say, "Bologna again? I want a chicken fried steak." It was interesting seeing the reaction. What we were doing is we were trying to help to take care of our neighbors and friends, those who lived around us. It was fascinating to see the reactions, which ranged from gratitude to grumbling. Isn't that what we see in today's gospel? And in today's first reading? In today's first reading from the book of Exodus, the Israelites are in the middle of where? The desert of all places. How many restaurants are in the desert? Not a lot. At least not back then. But God provided for them. And it wasn't bologna sandwiches. It was quail and bread. And instead of being grateful, what do we find in today's first reading? Grumble, grumble, grumble. Fascinating seeing the reactions. You'd think they'd be grateful. God was taking care of them. In today's gospel, for 5 weeks this summer, we're taking a break from the Gospel of Mark. We'll read from the Gospel of John, chapter 6. It's called the Bread of Life Discourse. Jesus is saying, "I am the bread of life." He's giving them bread. And he's talking about bread from heaven that will nourish them, just as we're nourished by the Word and by the Eucharist. And instead of being grateful, what do we hear? Grumble, grumble, grumble. That's fascinating, because in the gospel, some people did take what Jesus was offering, that bread of life, and they were grateful. Some of them gave their lives for him and for the message that he preached. But others, beginning in John chapter 6, they turn away. And they say, what this guy is saying is crazy, and we can no longer follow him. Grumble, grumble, grumble. And you, with all the gifts that God has given us, life and health and a home and family and friends and a job and all those other things that we have, do we find ourselves waking up grateful in the morning? Or do we find ourselves like the Israelites, grumble, grumble, grumble? We come to Mass and we're nourished by the Word and by this Eucharist. Are we grateful? Or do we go away and grumble, grumble, grumble? How's that that for a challenge, brothers and sisters? It seems that the challenge has everything to do with an attitude of gratitude, of seeing those things that God has given us and being thankful for them, and cultivating an attitude of gratitude in our own lives so that we recognize the quail and the manna and the water that we receive and all the many gifts that God gives us. And instead of taking a look at that, like that bologna sandwich, and saying, "What? Bologna again?" Maybe it's bologna for a reason, and God continues to be faithful through it. This is Father Jamie's Sunday Sermon. Watch it, like it, share it, live it, go.